Hey guys, Matt here, at Brewery. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. We are almost done with Wednesday. It's 11 o'clock. A lot of the kids have now gone to bed, so it's quieted down a little bit. But you might wonder why I did it this way. This is my SJ Pour beer that I'm going to submit. So you're just going to have to guess on what it is. I thought it was appropriate to throw it into the Mickey Mouse glass because we're going to Disney probably if they don't close it due to the coronavirus nonsense, right? We're supposed to go in a week and a half. About a week and a half or so from now. So we'll see. But anyway, let's see how this is turning out. Yep, it smells just like, just kind of what I was going after there. Smells great. Cheers. Yeah. Yep. That turned out to be right around what I was looking for on this. So look forward to seeing what everybody thinks of this beer when they get it. I just got to be real careful when drinking on it, just in case I move on to round two. I got to make sure that after I've bottled off the amount that we need for round one, that I have enough sitting around in the keg if I progress through. So I got to go easy on this beer, but it is quite delicious. Yeah. Hopefully a winner here. We'll see. So this week I did I'll show you here's an overlay. I did a yeast starter for a beer that I'm planning on brewing tomorrow. It's the Rasputin's Beard. I've made that beer before. I've probably made that thing now 4 or 5 times. I guess I could call it a staple now at this point. It's not something that I make every year, but I just made it last year. And basically what it is, it's a Russian Imperial Stout that I made for a friend of mine originally because he wanted me to make a real nice thick beer. And over the years, I've tailored it a little bit. Especially now that I'm down here with a different wort profile, I've definitely have taken more consideration of how to balance out the wort profile accordingly for this beer. And it's come out better and better each time I've made it. It is about 22, 23-ish pounds of grains. I don't have the recipe in front of me. But of course, mostly 2-row. It's got some chocolate, some roasted barley, some special bee in there. I think some carapils. For hops, it is mostly Challenger and a little bit of East Kent Goldings, EKG. The yeast I usually use on that one is US04. And it turns out great. It's, the last batch I made, it started out at 10.99, got down pretty freaking low, and it was a 10%er. So what I've done is I've passed a few out to a couple brew tubers. I've passed out some to friends to kind of get everyone's opinion on it. It's turned out pretty good. So I plan on making a couple of minor tweaks to it this time based on the reviews that I've gotten. Because I know a couple people, myself included, I noticed one thing about the beer this time was it tasted a little bit more than usual, or I should say a lot more than usual on the dark fruits, raisiny, plummy type of taste. And I think, my guess is because of the amount of special bee I put in there. Special bee does tend to have that characteristic, and I threw a full pound in it. Now, I didn't think that would be too much because it is 22 pounds of grain, so one pound of a specialty malt isn't that big of a deal. So what I think I'm going to do though, because that's mostly where that type of flavor is supposed to come from what I've read, I'll probably dial that down a little bit. I might do like 12 ounces. I just don't want it to be, I don't want it to be first and foremost in the beer. Not that the beer turned out bad at all, it turned out great. And it's good the way it is. But I want to tone that down a little bit and just see what I get. I may mess with the water profile a little bit more, just to get a little bit more of the malty character out of it. Because right now the water profile that I put on there is more of a balanced profile. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm not going to make a huge difference. It's not going to be like a 2-to-1 or anything, but I'm going to up the chloride just a little bit to see if I can pull a little bit more out of there. So that's on that. I did bottle the remainder of the Tropical Ding IPA, which is the yeast experiment beer, and I did also bottle a a fair amount of my Irish Carb Bomb Stout because I need to make some room in my kegerator for the next couple of things that I got going. I can now tell you guys about the other beer that I made for the SG4 challenge. I had two that I was thinking about making. So the other one that I have going, I'm calling it Yamato's Demise. And so this beer, it's supposed to be a Baltic porter. At the moment, it's a little bit too sweet for me. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. I think for now, I'm just going to let it age. I want to see what time does for it. It's already been it was actually in the primary fermenter for almost a month. That was the first brew that I made for the challenge. But I decided I didn't care for how it came out compared to the other one, this one. So I think I made the right decision. That's why it was nice that I was able to brew two. But basically, you know, the two beers, the Yamato's Demise, I think it'll be okay. I've never had a dump of beer. I just don't care for it at the moment. It was a very high gravity beer, so maybe it just needs a little bit more time. It came down to 1017, so it's a little bit on the sweet side. I would like to see it get a little bit lower. What's interesting is I cold crashed it for almost a week. So it was in the primary fermenter for about 3 weeks. It was cold crashed for about a week and moved it into a secondary. So it's now sitting in a secondary. I'm going to let it sit there I'm probably just going to let it roll for like a month before I even mess with it. I'm in no hurry for it, so I'll give it some time to do its thing, and then I want to see what it turns out to. So we'll see what happens there. I'm going to overlay some video of my newest process in bottling. I got this. I'll show you this first before we start to cut away at the video. I don't want to make this Homebrew Wednesday too long. So I'm going to overlay some of this. But basically I bought I think this is it's a 2-pounder or 2.5-pounder CO2 tank. I thought it was appropriate size for what I was doing. I was thinking about buying a separate tank for bottling and for pressure transferring. So I went this route. This thing should last me a long time, considering the only thing I'm doing with it is bottling and the occasional moving things from vessel to vessel. So bought this, had a spare regulator. Seems to work pretty good. It's Comos, and it's got the knob, which is nice. So the meter on it's a little bit different than I'm used to. I've only used this a couple of times before, and I ended up switching to a bigger setup for the kegerator. But this does the job. And what I've done is, rather than running out and buying a whole bunch of extra stuff, I just repurpose what I have. So I bought this, had the regulator, and I had all this tubing and a splitter. So I just hooked it up to a splitter, put these two lines on there. One line has the quick disconnect for the gas, which will go into the keg when I'm bottling. And the other part of this will just go into the gun. So it just screws right into the bottom of the Blickman beer gun. We'll go ahead and cut over now for the overlap while I continue to talk, so you guys can see a couple minutes worth of me bottling and testing this out. But that thing has worked out really good. Got a chance to mess with it. I set it to, I set it to 1 PSI when I was bottling up the Tropical Dean IPA. Worked out totally fine. Came out, right out of the keg, no issue, right into the bottles, no problem. Minimal foam was great. It's pretty much very similar to what I've done when I borrowed a connection out of my kegerator. The Irish Carb Bomb Stout, though, however, when I went to bottle that, had a little bit of an issue. There is, at the bottom of the keg, there is a canister and a bag and a vanilla bean in there. So there's a few things that are kind of floating around in there to kind of maintain the adjuncts that I had in there, because I did something different this time. I know I've mentioned it before, but quickly I'll tell you that instead of using a secondary this time, I decided to primary a little bit longer, and then instead of the secondary, I went straight to the keg, added the whiskey directly to the keg, added the vanilla directly to the keg, and I just rolled with it. Turned out really good. It's definitely a different take on the beer. It doesn't taste the same as the last version. Could be a part of the difference of that process. It could also be a part of the difference of the fact that I used a different version of the whiskey. Normally I use Jameson's Irish whiskey, just straight up. I put 2 cups of that into a secondary. Never had an issue, always gave me the exact balance that I wanted out of that. This time I found a stout edition cask mates, and I put that in there, so it definitely gave it a different character. So it turned out okay. But that's what that was. So this is kind of nice because now I can actually bottle on the counter. I can not have to worry about the stirring the kegerator. I don't have to worry about pulling in and out of connections. The thing that kind of worried me a little bit is I'm constantly screwing on and screwing off these connections inside the kegerator to borrow the gas connectors. And I mean, eventually they're just going to wear out. So I just go this route, and I can kind of avoid that. So yeah, that's the idea there. So hopefully from here out, that'll be a little bit cleaner of an operation. All right. So now I have, now in the kegerator I have 2 kegs. So I have room for a third. As you saw from the beginning of the video, I went ahead and put in all of the yeast experiment beers in there since I had the room. My main refrigerator is pretty full. We have guests that are staying with us for a little while, so we have a lot more food in the house. So I didn't have room there to put them there, which is probably a good thing that I blew through the review beers that I had from you guys that have sent me stuff from commercial breweries and from your homebrew. I still have a couple left to go through, but not nearly the amount that I was sitting on for a while. So that was nice that I have the room now for food. But hey, I'm looking forward to digging into those yeast experiment beers. I'm probably going to start that tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. I'll try to sample maybe 1 or 2 a day until I get through them all. And I think what I'm probably going to do for reviewing, I'm going to pull out my nice new shiny tablet, review them on the spot as I go, and I might just put them all into one video. I think I've seen a few of you guys do that for the SG Pour Challenge, and I think that works out really well. You can put little timestamps at each particular beer in case someone doesn't want to watch all of them. They can just skim right to the one that they care to watch. So I'm probably going to try to do that. Yeah, so SG Pour Challenge, we're due to put our beers in the mail soon, very soon. Actually, I think the hub needs to have it next week. So looking into doing that. I actually got invited to a couple of competitions. I was going to join a couple this year anyway, but I found it interesting that two other clubs reached out to me to submit to their competition. So I think I'm going to try that. I hope I'm not biting off more than I can chew this year, between that and HomebrewCon and everything. But I don't think so, because I'm not going to specifically brew for the competitions necessarily. I think what I'm going to try to do is, I plan on brewing my Munich Helles pretty soon. And then I have a couple other beers that are still here, that have done well. And if I happen to have those around, plus anything that I'll be brewing over the next couple of months, I can just as easily set aside a few bottles and not brew specifically for a competition, just put in some of the ones that I have. And I think that'll work out okay. I'm trying to think if I have anything else going on. I have, like I said, brew days tomorrow. Try to get some brew footage out there for you guys for next week. Got the Disney vacation coming. Again, hopefully they don't close. I know everybody's been hysterical lately over this. I know my work has started to close some offices to do like a deep cleaning. It's a temporary thing. They're doing their due diligence, and then they're going to reopen them again in a couple of days. So hopefully not a huge deal. Hopefully we'll all get past this. Wash your hands, and we'll be okay, right? So anyway, have everybody a happy Homebrew Wednesday, and we will see you guys next week. Take care. Cheers.